when I was 7 years old, then I decided that I want to be smart. And what do you do when you want to be smart? Well, being a little boy, I thought that a smart person is a person who knows a lot of facts. So I decided that I will learn the encyclopedia by heart. I did not get very far with it. And back then, I was devastated. I was devastated that I couldn't do this very important mission. I had failed. However, now I know that it was good that I didn't do it. Because already in the year 2011, artificial intelligence beat humans in the game of Jeopardy. And Jeopardy, of course, is a game that is essentially based on knowing a lot of facts and being able to retrieve them quickly. But so already for 10 years, machines have been better than humans at that. So for me, this was important for two reasons. First, it shows that I was not a failure, maybe. And second, it prompted the question of, okay, what makes us humans then intelligent? If machines are much quicker in learning facts and retrieving facts, then why is it so that I'm here giving this talk to you? Why are machines not doing that yet? And then, ever since I've been studying psychology, doing experiments with humans to try to understand their intelligence, I have studied brains to try to understand what happens in our brains when we learn something. And I have worked with artificial intelligence, trying to understand what makes us humans different from these machines. And one thing that is at least currently different is that although machines are very good at storing facts and retrieving them, we humans are good at making links between things. So, for example, it's a fact that machines are better in storing facts, but only we humans make the link to the question of what does it mean for our education system? Should we do anything different in schools, given that machines are much better than we are in learning facts? And we do this every day. We do this all the time. For example, let's say you have some kind of a problem that you need to solve at your place, at your home, and you don't know how to do it. But then you might overhear a conversation between other people, and you might get the one fact from there that fits into your issue, and you can solve it. So we are very good in making these links. However, the true beauty of the human mind becomes apparent when we recognize that it's not only about learning facts, it's not only about linking them, but rather it is about combining these two. So what we humans can do is that we have some knowledge in our brain, we hear a fact or some piece of knowledge from the outside, we link them. But now, we can get another piece of knowledge, link it to this compound, and do that for many, many times to build these beautiful structures inside our brains. So, out of facts that are just out there, that are loose, we in our brains build systematic compounds, structures that contain this information, but that go beyond that. That's how our brain works. Every time you hear something, for example, now you hear me talking, this will prompt some of these knowledge structures inside your brain. And linking these new ideas with these knowledge structures in your brain will create even more newer ideas. So one way how to think about it is that it's like a puzzle. it's inside your brain, so it's not a normal puzzle. It's a puzzle inside your brain that you build out of pieces of knowledge. But the point is that, yes, if you have two pieces, it's nice if you can link them. But puzzles become interesting if you are linking hundreds of pieces. And that's what I'm telling you, that our brain does this. When we are focused on some topic, when we try to solve some problem, then we build these puzzles inside our brains. And now, if you are building these amazing knowledge structures inside your brain, then linking becomes has another meaning, because now you're not making links between single pieces of knowledge, but you might be making links between these big compounds. So you have built big structures of knowledge inside your brain, and now if you link them, then that's where the breakthrough happens. That's where a masterpiece comes. So every time we see someone who is really, we think that it's a genius, then we have to keep in mind that it's not that he or she is super talented, but rather we have to admire the fact that they have been building these structures inside their brain. Because that is the essence of all human creativity and innovation. And maybe Isaac Newton said it the best when he said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." And what he meant by that is that these previous scientists had built all kinds of knowledge systems. He, Newton, had acquired them. He had built these structures inside his brain, and then he was able to do these links that changed the worldview. So that is where the true potential of our brains lies. And that is what we should teach in schools. One counter-argument here might be that, okay, yes, there are a select few who can do this, who are able to build these amazing structures inside their brain, but for sure, most children can't do it. So, say this point would be that we cannot do this in schools. But I think this is wrong. First, how do we know that not all children have this algorithm in their brains? I think all children have it. And for me, the great example of that is that all children can learn a language, because language essentially is a system where you need to build these structures and you need to link them. So the fact that all children are capable of learning language is, for me, a sign that all of them possess this algorithm in their brains. The other point is that, okay, if some say that only some children are capable of building these beautiful structures, then the problem is that we do not know how to identify those children. Of course, a good teacher might say, yes, he or she is a great pupil and will change the world, right? But these predictions are not very certain. So we know from examples and from studies that, yes, you can predict future success to some extent, but not really. And there are very good examples to show that we cannot do it. Take, for example, Elon Musk, one of the world's most important entrepreneurs. When he was in school, he was a nobody. Nobody thought that he will become Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, etc. Or my favorite example is that of Albert Einstein, who is, of course, the icon of science and a true example of a scientific genius. When he was in school, he was pretty good in math and physics, but he wasn't a great pupil. Nobody said that, oh, he will be special. In fact, even when he was in university and when he graduated university, he did not get a job in university. I have a job at the university, but Albert Einstein didn't get a job. That's crazy. And so Albert Einstein became important and recognized only when he, at the age of 26, published fundamental scientific discoveries, for example, about special relativity. But these two examples already show the point that when children are at school, we don't know, we cannot say who will become a person who might change the world to a better place. We don't know. It might be that child who is terrible at school, who doesn't like to take orders, but who is building the structures inside his or her brain at the time. So for me, this means that we should assume that all children can do it, and we should take care that the schools can unleash this potential inside children's brains. So that the goal of the school system is not to put stuff into the brain, but rather to open up these brains, to find what is inside this child's brain. And we have to keep in mind that brains are very different. Already from the birth on, brains are different. They can build different structures. So it's not that all brains will like to build these amazing structures in mathematics or study neuroscience. No, there will be children who would be very good at doing rap music, who would be good at being artists, actors, entrepreneurs. And we in schools have to be able to open up also their brains. That every child would find that the school cares about what is inside their brain. So how could we do it? I think that from the early years on, it's important that we tell to the children that they can build the structures inside their brain. We explain them that people who they admire or who we call geniuses are not geniuses because they are super talented, but simply because they have done this work. They have built these structures inside their brains. And we have to then make kind of simple exercises to help children do that. For example, already in the early years of school, children could be more focused on classes where you need to develop something, build something. For example, over several days, they have to write a short story, or they have to do a comic, or they have to act out a play. Maybe they have to build some robots. So all things that take some time, that are not only simple facts, but rather where they see that it's a process where they need to focus and build something. And simultaneously with building or developing something in the real world, they develop structures inside their brains. And again, not all children will like all of these classes, not all children will like all of these different tasks, but we have to find what is a nice task for each brain. Later on, let's say just randomly that from the 6th grade on, I think an important thing that schools need is that there are classes that we could call open-ended classes, but if you like, we could also call them brain-building classes, where the child can herself or himself choose what she or he works on. That the goal of this class is that they work on their projects. Children work on what they want to do. If they want to write a story, good. If they want to build robots, great. If they want to do music, great. If they want to read books about mushrooms or brains, go ahead. In order to do that, of course, we need to cut off some of the classes and some of the materials we are currently feeding to the children. And that might sound like a bad idea. However, what we know from psychology and neuroscience is that when a child wants to learn something, then he or she will be much quicker to learn that than the way it's taught in schools. So if we cut off some, but we leave these open spaces every day where the child can do what she or he wants, then they will, of course, not learn some of the stuff, but in other fields, in some fields, they will learn much faster. So they will soon surpass their teachers in that, and that is good. That is the goal. We want them to see that they can build something amazing inside their brains. So just to be clear also, these kinds of open-ended or brain-building classes would not be graded. The goal would be that the children can, when the children finish the school, they have their grades, but they also have their portfolio. And in that portfolio, they can show, look, during my school, I wrote these novels, or I built this robot, I did these experiments, I did these calculations, I made these songs, I made these paintings. So that is something they do for themselves. And of course, one counter-argument would be that some children don't do anything during these classes, but in principle, a child could be doing homeworks, or if there are some children who are slow in progressing, then the teachers could work with them during that time also. So you see that the role of the teachers becomes a bit different in this vision. The role of the teacher is not of someone who is saying, you need to learn that and I teach you that, but rather the teacher is like a discoverer. The teacher should help to discover what is there inside the brain of this child. So the teacher would be more like a mentor who would come to the child and say, look, I see you don't like acting, you don't like science, but I like the way you write the lyrics for songs. I think that's pretty nice, so you should continue. And of course, at some time point, the teacher cannot help the child anymore because the child is too good already. But then the role of the teacher is to find children that have similar interests and put them together so that they could work together. It doesn't mean that one is from the 10th grade and the other from the 5th grade. If they both are interested in mushrooms, then they have something to learn from each other. And similarly, the teacher's role should be to find experts from society who could help some of these children who have already surpassed everything that the school has to offer. So I promise that if a teacher comes to me and says that, look, here's a child who has already programmed neural networks, here's a child who has done first psychology experiments, could you take a look at that work? Then I will. Because I feel that as a society, our role is to help to find children what their brains really can do. And I think that these capabilities are very important at the times like these, where during a pandemic, the children have to be at home, and somehow they have to be able to learn by themselves. Are they able to do that? We want them to know that it's not a passive thing, that it's not that teachers tell them that they have to learn this by heart, but rather that they know that they are on the driver's seat, that they control their future. We want them to know that they can build these amazing structures inside their brains, and that is the only way they can unleash the potential of their brains. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Jaan, for the keynotes and taking us closer to the mysteries and puzzles of the brain. But we have questions. So, ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Good. So what is the magic key to enable creativity? Or how can we understand better how to activate the creativity in the brain?
In the end, that's what I kind of tried to say in my talk, that we often think that creativity is some kind of something magic happening, right? But the way I see it and the way neuroscience sees it is that creativity happens when you really have built up a lot of knowledge inside your brain, and then you make this link. So you need two things. First, you need to have knowledge about the field that you want to be creative on. And second, you should be able to make links, so you shouldn't be afraid to make stupid links. So a creative person is not someone who comes up with only amazing ideas. A creative person is someone who comes up with a bunch of stupid ideas, and some of them are good. And so we have to tell our children how to do that. Yeah.
And you are going to tell that to the teachers, and the teachers will welcome you.
Well, I mean, I tell what I think is good, and everybody can choose themselves. I mean, when I have a chance, I tell the same story to children, I tell the same story to teachers, and I hope that some of them will pick it up and use their brains.
Lovely. So what is the role of emotions, and how do emotions affect building structures?
That is also a very nice question, and we could say it like that if there's a lot of negative emotions, the negative emotions, they do not, or they prohibit building these links. So if there's a negative emotion, then the brain is not so free to make new connections. So that's why basically getting rid of negative emotions is also a very important basis. So I thank for that question in that sense. So we need a child to be not hungry, not stressed, and only then he or she can take full advantage of building these links. So in other words, when we are in positive mood, then our brain is able to make these far links and build new structures. When we are not in this optimal mood, then it's not so easy.
It's the same with adults, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. The same with me and you.
Right. The next question. What is your opinion? How much knowledge is required to contain elementary knowledge, and how much time should we spend on personal teaching?
That is probably too hard a question for me to answer, but my point is that we should take this question seriously, that we don't need to teach so many things in school. We can reduce it maybe by 1/4, and instead of that, have these classes where children study themselves, where they actively build structures inside their brains. So I want to have this discussion, that it's not that the more the better, but rather maybe we should take some of it off and replace it with this brain building.
So less is more.
Yes.
How can teachers in any subject support the students to discover and develop students' talent and special skills? And what are the biggest mistakes that teachers make?
I am sure that a lot of teachers watching now are creative in that sense, that they know that this is important. But so just to recap, whenever the teacher takes the position that I am putting something inside your brain, you shut up and listen, then that's not so good. I think the fundamental assumption of a teacher should be that I help to build your brain. I try to put different types of knowledge there and see what your brain likes and what not. And I'm there to help you find your potential. I think if we take that assumption, then everything in school becomes nicer.
Mm. Do you think that teachers worldwide are equipped with the tools to understand the way the brain of each individual in the classroom works? Is it possible, or is it necessary?
I think in some sense it is. I think, but it's not hard. So in a way, I feel that I conveyed some of these important points today, for example, and that they are not complicated. So you should simply know that brains are different, that there is something potentially hidden in every child's brain. And now your task as a teacher is to help to find what it could be. So, and these three relatively simple things, if teachers all across the world acknowledge them, I think it will be a better place. Schools everywhere will be a better place.
And to sum it up, a more personal, maybe, question. If my memory and my information stands, then you have a 5-year-old child.
I have 5. One is becoming 5 and the other is becoming 7.
Okay, so let's talk about the 5-year-old one. In Estonia, in 2 years' time, it's this compulsory education, which is waiting for you.
Yes.
What do you see needs to be done or changed within the 2 years so that the talent will be unleashed in your second child?
Yes, I mean, that has been one of the key drivers why during this stretch of a few months I've been really in several education conferences talking about different things, but the point has been always the same, that look, there is potential in every child and we should try to unleash it. And my hope is that this assumption will be there for the teachers of both my son and my daughter, because I was a very good child at the school, but my children might not be. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, I see and I know that they might become something much better than I will ever. And I think that of most of the children in this world.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Jaan Aru.
Thank you.